Hello again, and welcome back to FSD TV. I'm your host, Mark Sonny, and we've got Kim Bass back again, continuing her exciting book, Pax, with Chapter 13. Let's find out if Runt can help Pax. Kim, take it away.
Hi, everybody. It's Mrs. Bass, and I'm back with Chapter 13. Gage, are you ready? We're going to find out more about Pax right now. When Pax awoke, it was late afternoon. The ache that had cramped his belly the past few days was worse. And when he tried to rise, he lost his balance for a second, his muscles trembling. He surveyed them for injury with a distant curiosity. Once, when he'd been ill, his boy had forced a pill down his throat. Afterward, his senses had been dulled and his reaction slowed. He felt the same way now. He dropped to the cool dirt and watched as, below, Gray and his mate emerged from their rests to scent the air, relieved themselves, then set off for food. Bristle sprang out from a den beside him, stopped only to order her brother to stay behind, then trotted out to hunt also. On the day he'd gotten into the car with his boy, Pax had sensed the tension and refused his morning kibble, so it had now been 3 full days since he'd eaten. Although Pax had never seen death, he understood that it awaited him if he did not find food. This thought produced no sense of urgency and drifted away. A second thought, however, that he must find his boy and see him safe, stirred him to rise again, first bracing himself on his forelegs before straightening his haunches. After a moment his head cleared. He wandered past the dens Bristle and Runt shared. There he smelled caches of game buried in the soft earth, but they were marked with powerful warning scents, so he did not dig them up. Farther out, a few gnawed-over carcasses were discarded to be scoured clean by lower-ranking scavengers. Pax began to poke through the carrion. Only the tail end of a marsh rat held any meat at all. Too rancid and gristly even for the crows. It was crawling with maggots. Pax lowered his head to the remains. He opened his jaw, but the smell sent him reeling back. This was not food. He staggered back a few steps and buried his muzzle in a patch of new clover, chewing the sprouts to cleanse the foul odor from his sensitive nasal passages. He swallowed and then began to feed tentatively. The act of eating was a comfort to his shrunken belly, although a false one. The clover wouldn't strengthen him. After a few mouthfuls, the clear thought arose again. He must find his boy. Just then he heard something tear through the grass. Before his sluggish senses could respond, he felt a solid weight plow into him. Runt pounced on top of Pax, crowing at his successful ambush. When Pax didn't move to shake him off, Runt began to examine him. Pax lay still while the smaller fox sniffed and licked him, too weak to waste energy batting him away. Unwell? Pax closed his eyes again, the low glancing sunlight, and did not respond. Runt bounded off and came back a few minutes later with the worm hanging from his jaw. He dropped it at Pax's paws. Pax shrank away, but the thoughts he had earlier surfaced again. He had to find his boy. He could avoid death if he ate. Pax picked up the worm and bit into it. Pax and Runt. Unused to the taste of live flesh, Pax retched and twisted away. Runt dug up another worm and dropped it in front of Pax, and this time Pax got to his feet and took a few steps before sinking back down. Runt followed and nudged him. Eat! Pax mustered as much dominance as he could. Leave. The younger fox gazed at the older one for a moment, then turned and trotted into the grass. Relieved, Pax laid his head on his paws. He did not have the energy for resistance now, but Runt reappeared after a few moments, something round in his mouth. He dropped his gift, and it broke open. Egg. The scent called up a sharp memory. Once when he was very young, Pax had found a hard white orb while exploring his human's kitchen counter. He batted at it, thinking it was one of his boy's playthings. It had rolled onto the floor and cracked open, spilling its delicious secret. Peter's father had come in while he was still licking at the last drops and smacked him away. His flank had stung from the blow, but that egg had been worth it. Since then, Pax managed an exploratory visit to the kitchen counter every time he was left alone, looking for more of them. A few times he'd gotten lucky. The quail egg Runt had brought him was smaller, its speckled shell flecked with dried grass, and it smelled gamier than the ones his humans ate, but there was no mistaking it. Egg. Pax rose. Runt backed away to allow Pax to lap up the yolk prize. He licked the grass clean of every drop, then looked up, eager to express his gratitude. Runt was gone, but a few moments he came back. 2 more eggs, held carefully in his mouth. Pax devoured them. Runt left and returned twice more. Pax ate steadily until finally 7 eggs swelled his shrunken belly taut. He dropped to the sandy apron in front of the dens and closed his eyes. Runt leaped onto a gnarled root above the dens. He drew himself up to his full height, and while Pax slept, the ragged little Runt kept watch. And that ends chapter 13.
Thank you, Kim, and we are rolling along with the story of Pax. So we'll be back again for chapters 14 and beyond. On behalf of FSD TV, I'm your host, Mark Sonny. We'll be back again.